You probably already know that OpenClaw is a powerful AI-powered assistant that lives on your hardware. But one of the problems of OpenClaw is that it can be very insecure, especially if you want to set it up to access from your phone or other devices. Today, I'm going to show you how to deploy OpenClaw on DigitalOcean and secure it with Twingate Zero Trust. We're going to make your AI assistant accessible from anywhere in the world while making it completely invisible to the public internet. No open ports, no VPN lag, no hackers. And thanks to Twingate for partnering with me on this video. We're basically building a private bunker setup. First, we'll use the DigitalOcean Marketplace app to get OpenClaw running in seconds on a droplet. Then we'll set up a Twingate connector. This is a tiny piece of software from Twingate that sits inside your droplet. It reaches out to Twingate's cloud. Because it's an outbound connection, we can literally tell the DigitalOcean firewall to block every single inbound request. That means your OpenClaw dashboard is only visible to you when your Twingate client is turned on. To the rest of the world, your server doesn't even exist. And if you're running OpenClaw on a Raspberry Pi or an old laptop at home, the logic is exactly the same. You'll install the Twingate connector on your local machine instead of a droplet. Okay, step one is to get the hardware. So let's log in or sign up for DigitalOcean. So once we're in DigitalOcean, I'll just go to the marketplace here. And we can see right here we have OpenClaw. We can search for OpenClaw if it's not showing, but I'll just click Create Droplet. So this is just going to set up OpenClaw super quickly. Now we just have some settings here. Now for our configuration, we can choose some different options. I'm going to go with the cheaper option, and I'll just do the 2 GB, 50 GB, 2 TB. We can just do the cheapest option, and then we can have it running for just $12 a month. Then I'll choose SSH key, and I'm going to add a key. It's basically a more secure method of logging in, and we're going for security here, so I'll just add SSH key, and it's showing me how to do this. I basically just have to run this command on my terminal, and it shows that this works for Linux, Mac OS, or Windows. And if you don't already have OpenSSH on Windows, you can install and use PuTTY. So I'll just paste in the command into my terminal, and I'll call it do for DigitalOcean, and then we basically just have to get this command to get the public key, except it's going to be called do.pub. So now I just do cat do.pub to get the public key. And I can copy this, and I'll just paste the key right into here. And then I'll just click add SSH key. And I can scroll down a little bit, and then I'll just create the droplet. And now I just wait till it gets finished being set up. Okay, so now I can just copy this IP address. Okay, now I'm going to SSH into my droplet. So basically I did in my terminal, I have SSH-IDO. This is the key that we created. The DO is the key. And then I do root at, and then the IP address that I copied from DigitalOcean from the droplet. So I can put in the passphrase that we created, and we are in. So this is actually the configuration for OpenClaw. Welcome to OpenClaw, your personal AI assistant. OpenClaw is a personal AI assistant. You run your own devices. It answers you on the channels you already use. So right now, I can now set up OpenClaw. And then it also tells me how to access it. We have our dashboard URL and then our gateway token that we'll need. So I'm now going to just set up my AI provider. So basically you can choose any one you want. I'm going to go with Anthropic. All of them are going to cost some money. So now I'm at platform.claw.com/dashboard, and I can just go to API keys and then create a key. Now I'll just copy my key and just paste it in. So I'll just go through the rest of this setup. So we're going to do the pairing. So we just have to go to this URL. So I'm going to paste in the URL here. And then I'm going to copy this token. And then I just have to go to the overview tab and then paste in the token. And then I'll click connect. Okay, let me go back over here. And now type continue once you've connected to see the pairing required error. Okay, we are paired. And now I can start using OpenClaw. I'm on the chat here, and I can say, hello, OpenClaw. Okay, I actually just had to add a balance to my Anthropic account. So let's try this again. Okay, now it's gonna allow us to set it up even more and say who I am and who our OpenClaw should be. Now, one great thing about OpenClaw is that you can connect it with a lot of services. So with OpenClaw, you can set up any of these chat channels. There's all these ways to chat with OpenClaw, and then there's instructions on how to connect it to all these chat channels. You can also connect it to a lot of different tools. I'm going to show you how to set up the Brave search API tool, so it will allow it to basically do search through Brave. So we need an API key. I'm already logged into the Brave search API website, so I go to API keys, and then I'm just going to go through and get my API key. Then I'm still SSH'd into my droplet. I recently actually just updated OpenClaw just by running the official OpenClaw installation command, which could be good just in case you don't have the newest version directly from DigitalOcean. So I'm going to run OpenClaw configure section web. So this is just an example on how you can add tools to OpenClaw. You can also add tools to connect to your email, to connect to your GitHub, and to connect to all sorts of other services. And then I just paste in my API key. Okay, now we got web search and web fetch working. I actually had to use OpenClaw to figure out how to solve some problems getting it working. But that's the great thing about OpenClaw, is it can help you solve its own problems. But OpenClaw may not always be able to fix its own security issues. So that's why we're going to use Twingate. So right now we can access our OpenClaw session at this public URL. But we need to fix that. This image includes Caddy as a reverse proxy. We need to configure it to only listen on the private IP. So to configure that, first we're basically storing our private IP in this variable, and then we will put it out to our terminal, and I'll copy that. Now we just need to update the Caddy file to remove the public access. So I'll just run this command right here. Now all these commands are coming from some documentation, and I have it in the description so you can copy and paste these. And now we just need to restart Caddy with sudo system control restart Caddy, and we'll verify that Caddy is running. Okay, active, running, good. So this restricts the reverse proxy to only respond on the private IP address, removing all public internet access. The gateway is now only accessible via Twingate. Let's refresh this page to see what happens. Okay, we cannot access the website at this public URL, which is exactly what we wanted. So back in our SSH terminal, we need to get the token for authentication. The OpenClaw gateway requires a token for authentication. So we can just do cat, and then here's our OpenClaw environment variables. And then I can just copy this OpenClaw gateway token, which I'll need later. Now we'll enable secure access with Twingate. So first we'll set up Twingate so we can access the droplet security, and then lock down the VPC completely. Now you just either need to sign in or create an account. Now you should have a network. Mine's bo.twingate.com. So I'm going to go over to my remote networks. Depending on if this is the first time creating your account, there may be an onboarding process you have to do. And you can navigate to a remote network you already have or create a new one. I'll just create a new one, and I'll do other for location, and I'll just call it OpenClaw. Now I'm going to go into my remote network and click Deploy Connector. Now we're going to find the Linux installation option right here. There's a button for Linux, and then I need to generate my token. So I'll just click Generate Tokens, and then I'll have to authenticate again. And then I just go down to Copy Command, and this command includes all the tokens I just generated. And now I'll just paste this command into my droplet. And then I'll just run the command. And this will set up my connector to Twingate. And then I'll run sudo system controller status Twingate connector to just check to see if it's working. And it looks like it is. Plus, if I go back to Twingate, I did not refresh this page. It automatically refreshed and shows that everything is connected. I have a green dot, so that looks good. Now we need to create a Twingate resource. So I'll go back to OpenClaw here, and then I'll click Create Resource. Now I'll call this OpenClaw Gateway. And now for the address, this is going to be the private IP address. If you forget, you can run this command, echo private IP address, so I can copy this address. And then I'll just paste in the IP address and then click Create Resource. And we will grant access to everyone. Now we need to download the Twingate client. So there's a Twingate client for all the major operating systems. And so wherever you want to access your OpenClaw, you just download the client. So depending on what operating system you're on, you'll be connecting to Twingate in different ways. For Mac, in this top bar, I can just basically connect, and then I can finish this configuration. Okay, I'm authenticated to Twingate. So here is our OpenClaw that wasn't working before because it was this public URL. So I'm going to go to this URL. This is the private IP address, and then my token. And actually, it doesn't even matter if other people see my token because they don't have access to my Twingate account. And we are in. We just connected to this private IP address that's running on DigitalOcean, and I connected to it right on my local computer. Now, if you're getting an error, that might mean that you have to add the IP address to the allowed origins list in the OpenClaw config. Okay, so back at my terminal, we need to edit our openclaw.json file. So I'm going to run this command, and then I'm going to go down to allowed origins. So I just have to add another allowed origin. So I'm just adding the local IP address with HTTPS and HTTP. And then we can save this. And then we just have to restart OpenClaw to pick up the changes. So I'm just going to do system controller restart OpenClaw. And now we're almost there. See, if I refresh over here, it now just says pairing required. If I go over to overview, it will tell us what we have to do. So it says it needs pairing approval, OpenClaw devices list. So if over on my terminal, I'm going to switch to the OpenClaw user and then just run OpenClaw devices list. And then we have a pending request here. I'm going to actually run this again, so hopefully we can get this all in one line. And so now my request is all in one line. That'll be easier to copy. And then I just have to run OpenClaw devices approve, and then paste in the request ID. Okay, it says approved. So we go back into our chat, and we're connected. I can zoom in a little bit. Tell me what you know about Bo Carnes. That's me. Let's see if it knows about me. Okay, so it knew some stuff from the memory and then also got stuff from the web. And it's working. And that's it. We have a secure instance of OpenClaw. I've put the links to the OpenClaw marketplace and the Twingate guide in the description. Thanks for watching.